All right, this is John Fox again with the Design Build Ascend Studios. I have a very special guest, somebody I've been wanting to get on the show for quite some time now. This is ORRO Lighting or ORRO Controls. Their website is getorro.com, and they are they have, I would say, disrupted the lighting controls world. And I'm really excited to have Colin Billings on the show with me, and welcome to the show, Collins. And by the way, people, don't forget to subscribe, because I never asked that question. So if you guys are going to watch the show, be sure to subscribe for future shows, because Colin will be back on here, I'm sure. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, John. Really excited to be here, and we got to meet first on one of the CEDIA webinars, and loved kind of your perspective on circadian lighting and how detailed and into the science you are, because there is backing for all of this, and really excited to talk about what we're doing at ORRO.
Yeah, fantastic. And I also noticed on your website that you actually have a new offering coming, but I wanted to really get into sort of how you guys started. So you and Alan, you guys got some venture capital here in Silicon Valley, and you guys have been, how long have you guys been doing this?
We've been actually working on ORRO for a little bit over 5 years. So we spent quite a bit of time in research and development, but we've been selling our products for the last 2 years.
So one of the things I wanted to ask about sort of the technical elements, there's some other competitors out there that have touched on some of the features that you guys have. One of them that I like to use is Avion.com. They have cornered the technology, not cornered, but they've utilized the technology associated with Bluetooth, BLE, they call it low emission Bluetooth technologies, to interconnect all of their devices in a space. They started in the residential applications, and then they pivoted halfway through to become more commercial operated. You guys seem to really hone in on the home. I mean, you've got Sonos attached, you've got Alexa. What was the thought process on that?
Yeah, well, first of all, lighting controls are really in every type of building, right? They're in almost every room where we are on the face of the planet. So we think that there's a lot to do in the road ahead of us. But we saw a particularly sort of poignant challenge in the home, which was a missing solution for more of the mainstream. Really, everybody that's adopting smart lighting and smart home today, that had a product absence in terms of both features and price point. And so that's why we've really focused first on the home. And in time, I think you'll see us be in other places. Okay,
so there's a roadmap for that, sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, at its highest level, ORRO is thinking about how lighting control systems and networks can be innovated in to help transition space from really an analog state to a digital state, right? And what do you get when you go to digital? You get a better occupant experience. It's easier to occupy, easier to live, more comfortable, supports some aspects of your health, peace of mind as well. Those things are certainly possible, but then there's other parts about managing that building, right? And that comes through the deployment of sensors, intelligence at the edge, and connectivity, which is today, part of the building blocks that whether you're building your own smart home, or whether you're operating a multifamily building, or you're running a commercial office space, are things that you're thinking about how I bring these ingredients together to enhance, both occupant experience and management. And one thing that every single one of these things already requires is a lighting control. And so that's where we've been really thinking about, what can we do at the junction box that helps digitize that space.
So let's talk about just the wireless element to it, because I'm trying to follow how you guys operate. I can go through data sheets, and I can sort of understand the way Crestrons work, the Lutrons, the world, and then you get into the other competitors that are sort of trying to make a wall switch, something that fits in a single gang, smarter and more more versatile. You guys have you guys have blown it out of the water as far as what you guys have interconnected there. But from light switch to light switch, is there, I mean, if you had to do a home, would you just put your ORRO switch in all the rooms, so to speak, your ORRO, or your, not your ORRO S, but maybe, or do you just, since you don't have it available yet, what's the plan for, let's say you wanted to do a 3,000 square foot home, you would, right now, today, you would have just the main ORRO product, right?
Yes, so the ORRO one, which is the product that's available today, is really our flagship experience, right? So
Oh, yeah.
built at its core is the ORRO responsive lighting experience, which is walking around your home and never really having to think about your lights. As you walk into the room, we're using sensors to detect your presence. We're automatically adjusting the lights based on what we've learned about your preferences, and then we're managing that lighting environment as time goes on, as ambient light changes. That really is putting human-centric lighting on autopilot. And then on top of that, the ORRO one has a touchscreen, microphone, and a speaker. So it really becomes an interactive device. And from that device, you can connect, into the ORRO system, other smart systems in your home, like your speakers, your thermostat, your locks, and you have wall control. It's a very versatile, multi-functional device. And then, just to put it in comparison, the ORRO S is really focused on that lighting piece. And so you can extend lighting to the ORRO lighting to more spaces in a home or building at a lower price point. And so what we see most people do today is that they put a single ORRO one in the main rooms that are used in the house, right? So in a 3,000 square foot house, we probably end up with 7 or 8 ORRO ones across that floor plan. So you're thinking like kitchen and family room, living room, the primary bedrooms, where controlling other things in my home is a core use case, or being able to communicate to those rooms, because ORRO operates as an intercom. You can put one in your kid's bedroom and then call from the kitchen and let them know that dinner is ready. That's really where the ORRO S sort of lives at its fullest potential. We certainly see people finding use cases and desire to put many more per room and all across the home. But as we sort of see this going more and more mainstream, the ORRO S sort of fills in those other rooms where the smart home and control use cases aren't needed. To talk about the wireless part just briefly, we're primarily driven by a Wi-Fi based system. We do something very similar to how Sonos operates, different set of technologies, but similarly that the devices are running on Wi-Fi and they're able to communicate to one another over a Wi-Fi channel. And so they build their own network for talking to one another. They can also use your existing wireless connection. We chose Wi-Fi primarily because we felt that most homes were getting really good with the mesh solutions inside the home. So a Wi-Fi connection wasn't as spotty as it was maybe in the previous decade, where things like Z-Wave or longer range, even LoRa might have been a use case. We really sort of see that becoming less necessary, but that the ORRO network itself gets stronger and stronger with each ORRO device that you add. And so you can actually build out a very robust connected system just by putting a few of these across the floor plan.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was going to ask you more about the S. So tell me when that's coming out. When do you think what's the game plan for that?
Yeah, we announced it at the International Builder Show in February because it's a very attractive product to home builders who are thinking about smart lighting, and having that be something that they can extend more broadly. It's in its final stages of NPI, so new product introduction with our contract manufacturer. So we should see it mid-spring. So on the order of May. We'll be starting to take pre-orders later next month.
Nice. Yeah, I was just on a show called the Construction Disruption podcast, and with a guy named Seth Heckerman. I need to connect you two, because they've got about 30 shows already, and to me, it's you guys are really disrupting the industry. I mean, I think you probably can feel it. But is there been any specific instances where You've noted that there's people, in that, because if you haven't been in the lighting industry for a long time, there's a lot of competition here. It's pretty well established. We've got Lutron, we've got Crestron, we've got Vantage, and there's a handful more, and they all have big budgets. They're all trying to do similar things what you're doing, and you come in and have this fantastic product already done, and everyone's like, what? How did that happen? And to me, I think the play is probably some sort of integration between you and them, or them. Do you see any opportunities there? Are you being reached out to say, hey, let's partner up and go after certain things together? Or are you guys still disrupting the market, so to speak?
Yeah, well, I think we start out with a fundamental belief about our customers that leads to how we operate sort of in this dynamic, which is it's your home. It should run how you want it to run, not how. Sorry.
That's okay.
I need to silence this or turn off.
That's the reminder to put your phone on mute.
Yeah.
I always forget. I just turned mine off too.
It's like stuck in my. All right, so let's start that one over, maybe.
Yeah.
So our approach to the space has really come from a fundamental belief that it's the customer's home, and that means that it should work the way that you want it to with the products that you want to. So I think we're fairly unique in that we're willing to work with people that you'd probably say are our competitors. And just an example of how we do that is that we recently announced that we're extending the automated capabilities, the responsive lighting of ORRO to switches that we don't make. So
absolutely,
with like Lutron or TP-Link or Leviton, if you have a connected switch, you can actually integrate that into ORRO. So as an end user, you now have one place for all your smart lighting instead of 5 different apps. And then on top of that, ORRO will automatically control those other lights as if they were an ORRO switch. So to give a very concrete example, in my living room at home, I've got one ORRO, one on the wall, and 3 Lutron cassettas next to it, controlling the 4 different circuits in there. ORRO is controlling all of those intelligently, right? It's learning about how you adjust those different circuits to the circumstances and what's going on in the room at the time, and then we'll begin to bring that automatically to you. And so this is, it gives builders, integrators, homeowners a lot of flexibility on how they want to design a particular room or system. It gives them flexibility on price point. So if they really want to sort of bring the intelligence of ORRO and do that with one ORRO product and go for something that's a little bit lower priced for the other load controls, they can do that. And so I think that has probably been the most disruptive sort of part of this, is that we're coming in saying like, look, we work with the products that you're already using. We'll work how you want it to use. We don't have a hard line on we have to be all or nothing, which is refreshing, it feels like, to the industry. The other thing I've really noticed is on the builder side, is that if you got to go back over the last couple of years, people knew that smart home was coming. They sort of said, hey, we don't have to worry about this right now. And it feels like everybody's trying to solve this problem like right now, because the consumer expectation has really sort of accelerated to the forefront. And so where we're seeing is being able to really give you a very seamless, almost turnkey smart home package with ORRO plus whatever else you want to use, whether it's lighting or locks or thermostat. You get to avoid the whole research of like, does it work with this and how do I integrate it and all of this as a builder. And that's been, I think, more of the disruption in that channel, right? Lutron will always be what it is, Vantage will always be what it is, and there will be places for those. But what really doesn't have many people serving it right now is that $500,000 to $700,000 home that is across the country that needs a system that has a price point of a couple $1,000s rather than a couple tens of thousands of dollars.
Oh, I agree, and I'm a huge fan. And one of the things about your skill in the ORRO package is the integration of all things. You know, you've got the stuff from Samsung, you've got Ecobee, you've got Sonos. I mean, the list here on the website is pretty consistent, you know, pretty wide. So when you are talking to the Casita products, are you hardwiring to those, or are you using the IFT? What are you guys using to make that communication?
So right now we're connected wirelessly. So in most cases, for some of the lighting products, it's done by SmartThings as the connector, which we help our customers establish. In other cases, it's direct, and so we're sort of moving the most important ones to direct, right? So for example, Hue was one of the most popular requests for integration, and so we did that first with SmartThings, then moved it to a direct integration. And so, that sort of hybrid approach allows us to get as much of what you want there, and then we can continue to improve the experience via native, integration when it's warranted based on what our customers are looking to have in their systems.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of, one of the reasons why I wanted you on the show was when we actually spoke at the on that other podcast about, it was late last year, I think. We were talking about the automation of circadian rhythm lighting. And one of the things that we all pointed out to each other was in order for circadian rhythm lighting to have its effect on you positively, you really need to do it in a way that is something that you don't have to think about, so that it's done automatically, because people won't necessarily dim the lights when the sun goes down. They won't necessarily switch the lights from, overhead to down below. You can do all of the things that once you set it up, it sort of is seamless, and it's sort of like you said. Talk about a little bit about how that's integrated in your product, because that's really the best part about it.
Yeah, today we really focus on dimming, which is about sort of limiting, in many cases, the disruptive effects of cooler temperature lighting sources. So ORRO, when it begins, you install it in the wall, it automatically comes with a circadian inspired lighting level. That's the default. And so it'll start out soft in early morning. It'll automatically brighten throughout the day. It'll turn off if you have natural light, and then the reverse dimming down happens automatically. So you're just walking around your house, and it's managing and engineering those lighting changes around you on a 24/7, 365 days a year basis. Our sort of roadmap in sort of wellness or health supporting focused lighting is going to start moving towards color temperature. That's sort of the first one. So we'll start recommending a color temperature throughout the day, which if you're using a bulb that can be tuned, it would pick up. Now we're hoping more and more bulbs come into that category. It's still, I think, early days for the right wavelength and the right tunability. But I think that for some people that are trying to get there, even with bulbs that aren't doing, the most excellent job like Ketra would be doing on the, I think it's 470 nanometers, right? In that range.
Yeah.
You can get that benefit to some degree, at least in the way you feel. Where after that, we're going to start looking at horizon positioning. So is the light that is in the ORRO system, is it in the ceiling? So is it above the horizon, or is it something that's below the horizon? So you could imagine, a bedroom that has cans in the ceiling, has a couple lamps on the side boards, and those lamps could theoretically be.
You're speaking my language, my friend. I know exactly.
It could either be a bulb, like a anything from a Philips Hue to a LifeX to any of these other connected bulbs, or it could be controlled by a plug or a dimmer outlet, there, right? And so what would happen is in the morning, as you're waking up and getting your day going, it's overhead light, right? And you're getting that more elevated stimulus with a warmer temperature that transitions to more cool and energizing throughout the day. Now, if you're in a room that has great natural light, eventually we're going to just shut down the lights to save some energy and allow you to really have a pure experience of that sunlight, which is going to be the most positive for you. Now, as you go into the evening, you start to have the reverse. But once you get around sundown, what should happen is those overhead lights turn off and the lower lights, the lamps, turn on. right? And because we know, and we're in control of all those, we can say, all right, we're turning off the lights. We're going to match the dimming, the brightness intensity level in the room with the lamps, but now we shifted the position on the horizon. And so those are the levels of what we think we can do in the near term on circadian automation, that really allows you, if you just go through the setup effort of buying the right bulb and connecting it and telling us where it is, we can do all the rest for you.
Right. Well, I mean, as a lighting designer who's done homes where we have to do all of the programming, in a 30,000 square foot home, and you have to figure out where all the lights are in from a horizon down, and then change the color temperature where the whole house is, every color, every light fixture in the house is completely tunable. And we've located lights below the horizon specifically for after hours. To be able to make that simple and sort of self programming is going to be huge. I'm so excited that this is being thought of in this way, and not only that, but in a marketplace where 30,000 square foot homes aren't going to use you. I mean, it's just too hard.
Yeah.
There's just too many circuits, too many things. But the majority of the people don't live in 30,000 square foot homes, and I can see myself living with your product in my home all day long, every day. I mean, it's just, that seems so ideal to me. And so it's just really interesting to see someone tackle that market, because we've been doing this as lighting designers and manufacturers who are concerned about circadian rhythm. They're all attacking these kinds of elements. But one of the things that we've learned in doing these big applications is that in order just for us to do it properly, we really need to dive in and go into DMX controls. So can you talk, is there any future plans to interconnect the DMX technology, DMX protocols into your product? Because that would be a fantastic connection.
There is not currently a plan around that. We've talked about it a couple of times. We could clearly open up a DMX interface. It's just small company, limited resources until we have more. And so, to your point, like someone, think about the installer, right? The installer or the integrator. If someone's coming to you looking for a very large system in a large home, there's sort of capability sort of things you have to think about, like what can actually be done. And then there's the price side of it, right? And so like ORRO is never going to be the most expensive thing you sell. And if you can, meet a customer's need in a way that ORRO can't, or you can sell a system that does more and you're going to make more money, you're going to do that. So we don't, we're not trying to say like you shouldn't do Crestron anymore. You shouldn't do, we're not trying to necessarily take their business, right? We're actually integrating with them and providing them with capabilities of using ORRO in different ways. And DMX would be an interesting way that we could add that. But what we're really focused is sort of more on the lower price point. And so until we start to see either that as the next sort of adjacent step for us, we don't have immediate plans, but it's certainly on my love list, right? There's something you want to do. You just have to make hard choices at times.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So tell me how you got into lighting. I mean, it seems like you came out of nowhere 5 years ago. Were you in the, I mean, not that I don't know you and that's not a bad thing, but I'm just saying, were you in the lighting world? How did that sort of come about?
I'm an outsider. So this is kind of my first foray into lighting and smart
Those
homes.
are always the disruptors, by the way, always the disruptors.
Before ORRO, I helped start a company called Stitcher, which was a podcasting platform that helped, sort of move from connecting our iPods and syncing our podcasts from our computers to streaming them over the air, and really sort of that transition, into on-demand listening, both on our phones and in the car. I had an experience sort of near the end of my time at Stitcher around not sleeping well. And this is really what got me interested in lighting. And so I was really struggling with sleep. I was buying everything I could get off of Amazon to get better sleep, like noise machines and blackout shades and all these other things. And I just, on a random recommendation from a friend, installed a computer program called Flux for my computer, which adjusts the color, temperature, and brightness of the display based on where you are in the world. And what I noticed was that within about 7 days, I was getting better sleep. And that was fascinating to me because I've always been a builder of products and really sort of focused on those things. And one of the things I learned, one of the big insights is that you've got to do a lot for a person without them investing much to really have a compelling experience, right? I know whether good or bad, we want a lot without having to do much for it. And a lot of our experiences, whether it's software or hardware products or any of those things. And so it really just stood out to me that I could just change this one thing in my life and I could have a tangibly better experience in my health and wellness and my peace of mind, really from getting better sleep. And so that was where I got interested in lighting, and it just sort of fed a curiosity. And this was in just after 2015, 2016, where I started really digging in. And what I found was really surprising, and this, and a lot of people in circadian lighting know this, but the scientific community has really established this relationship for decades, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think we're getting to the mainstream on this. Like we have phones that automatically switch between light mode and dark mode, and all of these other things that are really focused on light exposure have really come to the forefront. The blue blocking glasses for people that look at what screens.
And there's policy coming too. I mean, there's
right.
policy, so that's great. Yeah.
And so that was where I got interested in lighting. And I said, I thought at the time, I guess the genesis of ORRO was a failed hobby at my place in San Francisco at the time, which was, I was like, look, I can write enough. I'm bad at it, but I can write enough code to put something on a small server. I can stick it in the corner, and I feel like I should go just be able to buy 40 Philips Hue bulbs and screw them into my ceiling and be done with this. And have what Flux was doing for my lighting.
You were going to do
in my home. I failed miserably at that because I think smart luminaires have a lot of benefit, but they're not the right place for the intelligence. There's a numerical problem because there's a lot more cost if you put the intelligence in each of these things. But the biggest thing was you had to start using an app to really control your home, rather your lighting in your home versus just using the light switches like I've done my entire life, right? You actually had to tape light switches up, or tell people don't use my in-laws would come over, I would say, don't use the light switches. That's not, that was just so unfriendly, right? And so that was kind of so many things that I've seen are one step forward in benefit, but you sort of at least a 90-degree step up in complexity, right? You're sort of getting something, but you're paying for it with having to do something that's different and complex. And that was where I really started to ask the question with Alan of, do you think we could just do this automatically, right? How would you do that? How would you sense that you're in the room? How would you learn from interactions of a person in the room, what preferences look like? And that was the beginning of ORRO.
It's awesome. I mean, that would be, for someone who's technically savvy and sort of thinks outside the box and happy to disrupt industries, and to be in a situation where you want to fix something of your own, your own situation, and then finding that, that has a market outside of it. I think that's exactly how people disrupt and come out with amazing technologies. So good on you, Colin. I'm really glad you came on the show. It's something I wanted to dig in with you and know a little bit more about you. And so thank you for spending some time with me. I know you're a super busy guy. So I think this is going to be very helpful for a lot of people on that want to learn a little bit more about ORRO. So,
John, the feeling's mutual. Anytime you want to chat, let's do it. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I'll tell you what. Once you launch the new ORRO S, let's reconvene and do a proper introduction for the product. So,
would love to.
All right. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, John.
So.